and the girls for bringing us here today to remind us that there is hope. They cannot lynch our spirits. They cannot lynch our joy. They cannot lynch our brilliance. And it cannot do this moment. Hope is our revolution, and justice is our righteous inheritance. God bless you.
Everybody else, don't just tear up the whole podium. Arms length, social distancing, y'all. Put your arms out like that. We're going to be reminding you of this during the course of the day. Keep your arms spread out. It's a socially distant march on Washington, amen? Our next speaker is a Columbia University graduate, public speaker, and award-winning social entrepreneur. Chelsea Miller is the co-founder of Freedom March NYC, a youth protest and policy group on the front lines pushing for reform here in New York, as well as a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. AKA's in the house. Coming with Chelsea is Naila Idari. She's the co-founder also of Freedom March NYC. Most recently, she worked in the office of the highest ranking African American in Congress, Majority Whip of the House, Jim Clyburn, and in the office of New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. She too is an AKA. Please welcome Chelsea Miller and Naila Idari, please.
Thank you so much to Rev. Al Sharpton and National Action Network for having us here today. When I think about the start of my own activism, it started at 15 as the Midwest Youth Director of National Action Network. These movements have always been intergenerational. John Lewis was 23 years old when he marched from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama. These movements have also always included Black women, but we haven't always gotten our recognition. When we think about Claudette Colvin and Rosa Parks and Mahalia Jackson, Black women have continued to be on the front lines and will continue to be intersectional.
And like Naila said, as we stand here as the co-founders of Freedom March NYC, as we stand here today celebrating the history of what we mean when we talk about the civil rights movement, but because we know that progress is not easy, and it does not happen in one generation, but it takes all of us coming together. We could not be here without the protests and mobilization efforts of so many organizers, Black women organizers who have led in New York City. When they were saying that the KKK was coming to New York City, when they were pepper spraying and macing organizers on the ground and kidnapping us in unmarked police vans, we still came out and we still made sure that this movement was not silent. And so we may be young, but we are a force. We may be young, but we stand on the shoulders of giants. We may be young, but we are organized. And we are strategized, and we will show up in November to the polls, and we will let them know that we are not going anywhere. We will ensure that this revolution will be televised. We will ensure that this movement will continue in an intersectional way, in an intergenerational way, and we will not allow for this democracy that has promised us equality and justice to not make sure that they keep that promise. And if it doesn't happen today, we will make sure that in November we push for that promise. Because we know that this country, in this very stage that we are standing on, the Lincoln Memorial was built off of the backs of our ancestors. And so with that being said, Freedom March NYC is a youth-led civil rights organization for our generation. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at Freedom March NYC.
Can I see your board? Excuse me. Can I see your board?
This is Freedom Falls, and the next step is ensuring that we create change and we do it together.
I just want to get that.
We need a tight five. I'm sorry, let me get it together. Don't leave it all the time, but I'm carrying it the best way I can. This is what happens when the protests go silent. Go on truthandconciliation.org, take a pledge, keep the movement going. Because it's not a moment.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is a public policy and government relations professional holding a BA in politics and an MA in international relations with a concentration in international law from NYU. From her previous role as a legislative fellow in the House of Representatives of the U.S. House, to her current positions as policy advisor with the National Action Network, managing director for the Kenneth Cyril Valley Foundation, the youngest commissioner on the D.C. Mayor's Advisory Board for Caribbean Community Affairs, and a co-founder of Concerned Citizens D.C. Her commitment to identifying sustainable solutions to disparities in development across the Black diaspora remains at the forefront of all she does. This must be AKA moment, AKA hour. She's an award-winning member of the AKAs and has been named 5 under 25 and recognized as a 30 under 30 Caribbean American leader. Please welcome the National Action Network's own Kyra Stevenson Bailey.
Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you to Martin III and my boss and mentor, Reverend Al Sharpton, for convening this march. Thank you to my superhuman NAN family for organizing this march. And thank you to all of you for joining us in the middle of a pandemic to demand that America get its knee off our necks. My name is Kyra Stevenson Bailey, and I serve as a policy advisor in NAN's DC Bureau. 57 years ago today, people traveled across the nation to stand right here, united in their commitment to justice. Their commitment won us the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Their commitment won us the 1965 Voting Rights Act. It was a long fight, but they were committed. It was a long fight, but
Hey, let me get your shirt. Can I get your shirt? That's cool, man.
Millions have taken to the streets.
Where you from?
Jersey.
Jersey. I like Jersey. All right. Cleveland, Ohio. Miss Commentary, Cleveland.
Dwayne.
Thanks so much.
Was a march that helped usher in a new era of voting. We demand that the Voting Rights Act be restored to all it was meant to be. It is a long fight, but we are committed. Today, everyone received a ticket to enter. Take your phones out right now and scan your ticket to check your voter registration status. November is coming and we have work to do. We are committed to passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Bill. It is a long fight, but we are committed. It is a long fight, but we will win. Thank you.
Man, you look like a real security man. Do you know where do you have any idea who might be selling the little battery charger pack? Do you see any of that today?
The best place is probably going to be just back on the mall by Washington Monument. Got a lot of vendors set up over there.
17th Street? Or just
Justice Shorter,
all right. Thank
is a
you.
disability justice advocate and Black Disabled Lives Matter amplifier, a national expert on disability, inclusive disaster protections, emergency management, and humanitarian crises conflicts, with a steadfast commitment to international development and inclusive humanitarian assistance. Justice continues to participate in ongoing projects as a global advisor in training. After Justice Shorter speaks, we will hear from Carrie Gray, the founder and CEO of the Carrie Gray Group, and a founder of the National Alliance of Multicultural Disabled Advocates. Carrie's work centers on exploring the impact of race, gender, and disability as Black young professionals mature and transition into their careers. So please welcome Justice Shorter and Carrie Gray. Here you go.
Good morning. It is a privilege to stand before you in recognition of a long-standing movement that uplifts countless people and narratives such as Corrine Gaines, Sandra Bland, Natasha McKenna, and Tony McDade. However, did you also know that each of these individuals were Black people with disabilities? Ableism is the discrimination against people with physical and mental health conditions. There is a proven and fatal relationship between racism, ableism, and state violence. We must make no mistake